This happened about 8 years ago. I had just moved back into my family's old Victorian house after my mom passed away. I always thought I'd find closure here, but the clutter was everywhere. I wasn't a hoarder, but sorting through it felt impossible. One quiet evening, I finally decided to check the attic. I had always been afraid of that place. The steps creaked as I climbed up. It was dark and musty, full of covered furniture. I switched on the light, and it flickered, casting strange shadows. As I pushed aside old boxes, something scraped against my arm. I flinched. Maybe it was just a piece of wood. I bent down and there it was, a dusty box tucked away in the corner. I opened it slowly, expecting old clothes or forgotten toys. Instead, I found letters. They were all addressed to someone named Margaret, a name I didn't recognize. I pulled out a letter. The paper crinkled in my hands. As I read it, my heart raced. The letter spoke of names I'd never heard before. It mentioned events that sounded strange, like whispers in the night and shadows moving in the corners of the house. It felt unsettling, like something was wrong. I put the letter back in the box. I wanted to leave, but unease settled over me. Then I heard a noise behind me. The attic felt darker than before. I turned around, and my skin prickled. I thought it was just my imagination, but something felt off. That night, lying in bed, I heard it again. Pacing in the attic. My heart pounded. I tried to convince myself it was the house settling. But then the noises stopped. The stillness felt too heavy, too quiet. I kept replaying the letters in my mind. Maybe I disturbed something that was meant to stay hidden. The next few nights were rough. Every creak of the floorboards made me jump. I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. The letters haunted me. I lost sleep trying to focus on anything. Shadows seemed to loom closer, waiting for me. I felt paranoid, like I wasn't alone in the house. Finally, one night, I decided to face my fear. I climbed back up to the attic, my hands shaking. I needed to know what I had stumbled upon. I reached for the box with the letters. Just as I was about to pull it down, I heard a whisper behind me. My breath caught. I turned, and I swear I saw a figure standing in the shadows. "Is anyone there?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Silence. Only the sound of my heartbeat filled my ears. I didn't see anything, just a darkness that felt alive. I backed away slowly but kept my eyes on that corner. I wanted to run. Then I remembered the letters. I shouldn't have read them. I shouldn't have come back. As I stumbled back down the attic stairs, the whisper returned, echoing in my mind. I think I should have left it all alone. The next morning, I woke up exhausted. My dreams were filled with echoes, whispers chasing me through dark hallways. I couldn't shake the feeling that something in the house was expecting me to act. I had to do something. Curiosity brewed alongside my fear. As I brewed my coffee, I stared out the window at the overgrown yard. I noticed my neighbor, Mrs. Henderson, tending to her flowers. Maybe she knew something. I hesitated but finally grabbed my jacket and headed outside. "Morning, dear," she called out, her voice warm like the sun. "Hi, Mrs. Henderson. Can I ask you something?" I walked over, trying to keep my voice steady. "Of course. What's on your mind?" she replied, wiping dirt from her hands. "I found some old letters in the attic. They were addressed to someone named Margaret. Do you know her?" Her smile faded. "Margaret? That name hasn't come up in ages." She paused, her brow furrowing. "I think she used to live in that house a long time ago. Very strange things happened back then." "Like what?" I pressed, feeling a chill creep down my spine. "They say she would sit by the window, talking to the shadows," she whispered, glancing around as if afraid someone could hear us. "Some thought she was troubled. Others thought she saw things that weren't there. But, dear, it's just an old wives' tale, right? I nodded, but a knot tightened in my stomach. I felt like I was peeling back a layer of something I wasn't ready for. Do you think her family still lives around here? Mrs. Henderson shook her head. No, they moved away years ago. Most of them, anyway. Just keep your distance from those old stories. I thanked her and walked home, unease swirling in my chest. What kind of stories had been told? I couldn't let it go. I needed to know more about Margaret. That night, I ventured back up to the attic. My heart raced as I climbed the steps, but I needed to locate more letters. Something compelled me to seek answers. I fumbled through the box again, rifling through the letters quickly. That's when I found it, a large, yellowed envelope tucked beneath the rest. It felt different. I pulled it out and opened it. Inside was a small photograph of a woman. The same woman from the letters. It had to be Margaret. But as I studied her face, a sudden chill swept across the room. The air thickened, and I heard a sound, not a whisper this time, but a soft humming. It was faint, but I could feel it tugging at my heart. I spun around, heart pounding. The shadows in the corner seemed to pulse. I wasn't alone anymore. Who is there? I called, my voice trembling. The humming stopped. There was a pause, and then I heard a faint whisper, almost like a reply. My heart raced. I couldn't leave now. I needed to know what the humming meant. I held the photograph tightly. This was just the beginning. Then everything went dark. I blinked against the darkness, disoriented. It felt like I'd been pulled underwater. My heart raced, and I held my breath, straining to hear anything but the pounding in my ears. Gradually, shapes emerged. A dim light flickered above me, casting eerie shadows across the attic walls that I could barely make out my surroundings. Small items and dust clouds danced in the weak light. I couldn't remember if I had blacked out or if something had overwhelmed me. The lingering scent of old wood and something almost sweet filled the air. My pulse raced as I stood, scanning for any sign of movement. Before I could piece together my thoughts, I saw something by the window. An old wooden chair, facing outward like it had been waiting. My pulse quickened. Was it always there? The image of Margaret talking to shadows came rushing back. I stepped closer, drawn to it. As I neared, the chair creaked softly, and I froze. Hello? I called. My voice echoed in the silence. I heard no response, just the faint hum returning, teasing me from somewhere deep inside the house. That I shook my head, trying to stand firm against the uneasy feeling. I needed to focus. Maybe the humming was related to the letters. I reached for the photograph again. It had slipped from my grasp when everything went dark, but now it was right by my foot. I picked it up, the heat from my fingertips warming the chill of the picture. But that's when I noticed something new on the back of the photograph. Someone had written a date. April 19, 1953. I stared at it. Why would that date be important? Suddenly, the humming intensified, vibrating through me. I was about to back away when I spotted a glint of light reflecting off something in the corner. It was another envelope, similar to the one I had found before but more worn. I felt compelled to pick it up, as if it had been waiting for me all along. As I opened it, I held my breath. Inside was a brief note, hastily written in elegant script. To whom this may concern, please listen carefully. The night will come when shadows call. I felt a shiver run down my spine. It was a warning. But a warning for what? Then the front door of the house slammed, making me jump. I hadn't told anyone I was up here. My heart raced again. Someone or something was here with me. I rushed to the attic stairs, but I hesitated. The only way out was down, and I needed to gather the courage. Who is there? I called again, regretting how weak my voice sounded. Silence answered me. But the humming didn't fade, it grew stronger, as if urging me to act. I strained to listen, trying to decipher the chaos in my mind. Just then, a gust of cold wind swept through the attic, blowing out the flickering light. I was left in darkness once more, that I could feel it, right behind me. Something ancient and heavy, and it was waiting for me to turn around. I hesitated, my heart pounding in the silence. I could feel the weight of whatever was lurking just behind me, but turning around felt like stepping into the mouth of a predator. The chaos inside me churned with fear and curiosity, fighting for control. "Show yourself!" I shouted, more to convince myself than to challenge whatever was there. The darkness remained still, heavy with anticipation. Then, the humming started to blend with a whisper, barely audible at first. "They're coming," it said. I strained to make sense of the words, but they slipped through my mind like water through my fingers. Who was coming? Frantic, I turned slowly, every muscle tense, ready to bolt. The air was thick, almost suffocating, and my instinct screamed at me to run. I couldn't shake the feeling that if I didn't confront whatever this was, I might never feel safe again. I took a deep breath and turned fully. Nothing. Just shadows darting in the corners of my vision. I fumbled for the switch, desperate to bring back the light that had slipped away moments before. As my fingers grasped the cool metal, the humming escalated, almost shrilled as I clicked the switch. Light flooded the attic, revealing the old beams and forgotten things. But now, out in the open, I noticed something on the chair. There was a small, intricate box sitting on its seat, glimmering softly against the stark backdrop of the wood. That I stepped closer, drawn to it. The box was old, carved with swirling designs that seemed to come alive in the light. Without thinking, I reached out and opened it. Inside lay a collection of small items, a tarnished key, a dried rose, and a tiny locket. My heart raced. Each object felt imbued with stories of the past. I picked up the locket, turning it over in my hands. The metal was cool, and I could see a faded photograph inside, 2 children, smiling. A chill ran down my spine. Who were they? As I examined the locket, I heard the front door slam again, louder this time. Panic surged within me, reminiscent of a time long ago when I had felt trapped. I glanced back at the stairs, the only exit from this haunted space, but before I could decide, a loud creaking echoed through the attic. It was like a giant's breath, sending shivers through my spine. I turned my head slowly toward the source, my heart pounding. Then I saw it, a shadow, not just a trick of the light. It shifted closer, the edges blurry, almost as if it was struggling to take form. "Who is there?" I called again, my voice barely above a whisper. My hands trembled, still clutching the locket, feeling the cold burn against my skin. The shadow stilled. It lingered on the threshold of the light, waiting, like it was deciding whether to come closer or fade away again. The humming escalated, vibrating through the box in my hand. Then, everything went dark again. The light flickered out, leaving me with only the tightness in my chest and the knowledge that the next move was mine. I took a step back, but the floorboard creaked ominously beneath my weight. I had to know what was happening. I had to uncover the secret that tied me to this place, and that shadow seemed to be the key. But as I stood frozen, the voice echoed in my mind again, "They're coming." And suddenly, I knew I wasn't the only one searching for answers in the dark. I stood frozen, the darkness swirling around me like a living creature. The weight of the locket in my hand felt heavier now, almost like it was a warning. Every instinct told me to drop it and run, yet a part of me remained glued to the spot, drawn to the shadow that still lingered in the corner. Then suddenly, a flicker of light broke through the void, illuminating the edges of the shadow just enough for me to discern its features. A face. Not a grotesque monster, but a boy maybe the same age as the children in the locket. He looked sad, his expression twisting in anguish, as if he was searching for something lost. "Who are you?" I whispered, my voice trembling. The boy's mouth moved to respond, but no sound came out. The humming shifted into an unsettling melody, weaving around me. My heart raced. He pointed toward the floor, still hidden in shadows, as if trying to tell me something vital. Without thinking, I stepped forward, edging closer to the boy. As I did, the shadows quivered, and the memory of a warm breeze swept across my face. My fingers brushed against the edge of the chair, pulling away a dusty blanket that had concealed an old trunk. "What is this?" I murmured, kneeling down to inspect it. I could feel the boy watching me, his presence somehow comforting despite the mounting fear. As I unlatched the trunk, it creaked open, revealing a mass of letters, tied together with fraying twine. The envelopes were addressed in elegant handwriting, but the names were unfamiliar to me. I pulled one out and turned it over, the faded seal still intact. January 12, 1963, it read. I glanced back at the boy, who looked almost hopeful now, yet still tethered to sadness. "Is this yours?" He nodded, his gaze unwavering. Curiosity overpowered my fear. I opened the envelope, the musty scent of old paper wafting up. The letter inside was yellowed but legible. The words flowed like a story I hadn't known I needed to hear. "Dear Clara," it began, and as I read on, a sense of longing washed over me. The writer spoke of lost connections, promises made under the light of a crescent moon, and a search for closure that never came. With every line, I felt the weight of history pressing down, the urgency of voices long unheard. Then, like a light bulb flickering to life, I remembered the locket. Clara. The children. Was this all connected? The humming morphed into whispering, urging me to keep reading, but just then, the door slammed again, this time with a violent force. I jumped, the letter falling from my hands. My breath caught in my throat as fear coursed through me. I turned back toward the stairs, but the shadow boy was no longer there. As I scanned the room, panic rose within me. Something was definitely coming this time, and I had to decide: dive deeper into the mysteries of the letters or flee this unsettling house that seemed to be awakening from its slumber. Then I felt a cold breath at my neck, sending chills down my spine. I wasn't alone anymore, and whatever was coming, it was closer than I'd ever imagined. I held my breath, frozen in place. That cold breath lingered, wrapping around my neck like a vice. My instincts screamed at me to run, yet fear held me captive. The letters scattered on the floor felt like the only connection to whatever mystery was unfolding, but the chilling presence behind me could change everything. That I turned slowly, bracing myself for what I might see. At first, it was just shadows, thick and inky. Then, through the darkness, I saw a shape emerge, taller, broader. I squinted, my heart racing. An outline of a figure, cloaked in shadow, stood just a few feet away. I could hardly make out a face, but I felt its gaze piercing straight through me. "Who are you?" I managed to choke out, trying to keep my voice steady, but it trembled nonetheless. The figure didn't respond right away. Instead, a low, guttural sound filled the room, blending with the whispers that seemed to be circling me. Suddenly, the boy's face appeared in my mind, the sadness in his eyes flickered to life, urging me to remember the letter. I glanced at the papers scattered on the floor, desperate to grasp any clue. "Why are you here?" I pressed, trying to sound braver than I felt. The figure shifted closer, and I felt the air grow heavier. "You must remember," it finally whispered, the voice echoing as though it belonged to a multitude. "You will find what you seek." The word sent a shudder through me. I wanted to bolt, but something anchored me to the floor. I thought of the boy, the one who wanted something from me. Searching the eyes of the figure, I sensed the same energy, one of loss and a deep yearning. Then a sudden noise snapped my attention, the sound of scratching echoing from beyond the attic door. My heart raced. What else lurked in this house? I couldn't ignore it. The urge to flee surged again, and I took a step back, but the figure raised its hand as if stopping me. "Do not be afraid," it said softly, though the voice still felt heavy with despair. The figure gestured toward the trunk, and my eyes were drawn back to the letters. "Clara, find her," it urged. With that, the figure dissipated into shadows, leaving me alone in the uncertain silence again. That I hesitated, going back to the trunk. I picked up the letter I had dropped, my hands trembling as I smoothed it out. "Clara," I whispered. "Who are you?" The scratching intensified. Panic rose again. Something, or someone, was trying to get in. I had to decide. Would I uncover the truth behind Clara and the letters, or would I turn back and face whatever was lurking beyond that door? Suddenly, like a flicker of lightning, the door burst open, and a blinding light spilled into the attic. I squinted against the brightness, my pulse quickening. In that moment, I realized this was not just about uncovering a secret from the past. It was about survival. "Please," I begged into the light, "just let me find out what happened." As if in answer, the light flickered, and I felt a presence rush in, but this one felt different. It didn't feel threatening. Still, a chill crept along my spine as I stood there, unsure of what lay ahead. Light flooded the attic, illuminating the dust particles that danced wildly in the air. The oppressive darkness that had swallowed me moments before now seemed to recede into the corners. I squinted, trying to make sense of the brilliance, and found a figure emerging. This one was softer, more human. A woman, perhaps in her 30s, with an expression of concern etched across her delicate features. "Are you all right?" she asked, her voice soothing. I hesitated, my throat tightening. I had spoken to a shadow, and now here stood a woman in stark contrast, glowing with warmth, yet still unnerving in the way she had appeared. "I think so," I replied, unsure of how to explain everything I had just experienced. "What were you doing up here?" she prompted gently, stepping closer. "I found some letters and then I cut myself off," recalling the figure. "There was someone here." Her brow furrowed a bit. "A spirit? They can be restless." "Restless?" I echoed, feeling a mix of fear and intrigue at her words. "What do you mean? Do you know about them?" She nodded slowly and glanced around the attic, as if searching for something. "This house has its stories. Many people lived here before you. Clara, she's one of them. She can be protective, but she needs someone to help her find peace." "Clara?" My heart raced at the mention of the name, feeling suddenly aligned with the mystery I had stumbled into. "Is she the girl from the letters?" "Perhaps." Clara was a young woman who experienced great pain in her life. The woman's eyes softened. She loved deeply but lost something precious. The letters could hold the key to whatever it was she couldn't let go of. The scratching noise had grown silent, replaced by a hum of electricity between us. I looked back at the trunk, the letters still lying open and waiting. "I don't know where to start." "Start where you're comfortable," she replied, her voice a whisper now. "She wants to be remembered, to be understood." Suddenly, a gust of wind rushed through the attic, sending a shiver down my spine. The trunk lid slammed shut with a loud thud, and I jumped back, feeling the fear claw at my insides again. The woman turned, her expression shifting from concern to urgency. "We need to move quickly. Clara is restless." "Move where?" I asked, panic creeping in. "I don't even know what she wants from me." Her gaze shifted to the door, now ajar, shadows flickering just beyond. "Only you can uncover the truth. But you must be brave. There's still so much to discover." Before I could respond, another noise echoed from the shadows, a low thrum, like the growl of a distant storm. "Please," I whispered, trying to hold on to my reason. "I need to know more." "This way," she said, pointing toward the staircase that led down. "We must go before Clara becomes more than she is." As I followed her, a mixture of dread and curiosity pushed me forward. I felt the tether of the attic pulling away, but I couldn't shake the feeling that whatever I was about to uncover would change everything. And deep down, I knew I was not done unraveling the secrets of this house. What lay ahead? I could only hope it would illuminate the past instead of dragging me into darkness once more. As we descended the stairs, each creak of the floorboards echoed around us, loud and sharp against the silence. My heart raced. I could hardly think about anything but Clara and the danger the woman had hinted at. "What is going to happen?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "Stay close," she instructed, her tone clipped. We need to get to the living room. That's where Clara's energy is strongest. I nodded, but dread weighed heavily in my stomach. We reached the bottom of the stairs, where a small hallway split the way. One path led to the living room, while the other twisted toward the kitchen. I hesitated at the fork. What if Clara doesn't want to be found? Trust me. She needs this. She needs you, the woman assured me, her grip firm on my shoulder. Her words somehow pushed me forward. We stepped into the living room, and the air felt charged. The light streaming through the windows flickered, as if responding to an unseen force. The woman's presence was grounding, but I couldn't shake the chill creeping along my spine. Look, she said, pointing toward the mantelpiece. A small, ornate box sat there, its surface decorated with intricate carvings. That box belonged to Clara. It holds the memories she clings to. What memories? I whispered, moving closer. The box felt like a portal to her past. What do I do? Open it, the woman urged. But be careful. Clara might try to communicate. I took a deep breath, steadying my shaking hands. The last thing I wanted was for Clara to appear again. But I felt an inexplicable pull toward the box, as if it held answers I had been seeking. I lifted the lid with apprehension, the small hinges squeaking in protest. Inside lay a collection of letters much like the ones I had already found tied neatly with a faded ribbon. My breath caught. There was also a delicate silver locket, tarnished with age. What's inside? I asked, my curiosity edging out my fear. Open the letters, the woman insisted. They'll tell you who Clara was and what she lost. I untied the ribbon and carefully unfolded the top letter. My hands trembled as I scanned the elegant script. The words spoke of love, longing, and a shattered promise. But the deeper I read, the more the edges of my vision blurred, as though I were slipping out of the present. The room around me began to shift. I felt a wash of emotions: joy, heartbreak, desperation sweeping through me. I gasped, nearly dropping the letter. What is happening? I exclaimed, reeling from the intensity. The woman stepped closer. Clara is manifesting her story. You must keep reading. You're the only one who can help resolve it. As I read on, I realized this was not just about Clara anymore. It was about me too. The struggles, the experiences that echoed across time. My understanding of loss deepened with each word. But just as I began to piece things together, the room darkened. A sudden chill swept through, and I glanced up to find shadows gathering like storm clouds around me. What's happening? I cried out, panic clawing at my voice. Something's changing, the woman said sharply. And if we don't finish this, Clara may lose her chance at peace and take you with her. Before I could respond, a breath of wind extinguished the last rays of light. The air buzzed with an energy I had never felt, a mix of fear and urgency. I was caught in a spiral of Clara's past, and I knew I had to face it head-on. I took a deep breath. All right, Clara. Let us find your peace. But before I could dive back into the letters, a slamming noise echoed from the hallway. Something or someone was in the house. I froze, the letter hanging loosely in my fingers. The banging sound sent a jolt of fear through me, and I instinctively took a step back. My heart thundered as I strained to listen. It came again, a loud thud, followed by a series of crashes. Did you hear that? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. The woman's expression shifted from focus to alarm. It's not just Clara's energy. Something else is here. She scanned the room, her eyes darting toward the hallway. Should we check? I asked, my throat dry. No, she said, her voice low and urgent. We'll be vulnerable if we leave this spot. We need to focus on Clara. Read the letters. I hesitated, still feeling the pull of whatever lurked in the house. But looking at the letters, I could feel Clara's presence in every word. She needed this. I needed this. I clenched the letter tighter and read on. The next letter spoke of betrayal. Clara had poured her heart into a romance that had ended in tragedy, and reading it felt like cutting deeper into an unseen wound. I could sense her emotions wrapping around me, suffocating yet liberating. "That's it," the woman urged, sensing my resolve. "Remember, we're not just uncovering Clara's past. We're breaking the cycle." I pressed on, each letter unraveling piece by piece. But each word weighed heavily, as if they pulled at the very fabric of the room. The air grew thicker, swirling around us like a maelstrom. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from the hallway again, but this time, it felt closer. I flinched and looked toward the sound, dread pooling deep in my gut. "What if it's Clara?" I stammered. "It's not Clara." "Stay focused," the woman snapped, regaining her poise. "Read." Gathering my courage, I read the final letter aloud. Clara's voice poured through the pages, one of hope, regret, and a flicker of longing for redemption. As the last words left my lips, a blinding light burst forth from the box, enveloping the room. "Clara!" I yelled. The blinding brilliance illuminated every corner of the living room and chased away the shadows. But the shadows weren't just retreating, they were whirling together, gathering force. "Now!" the woman shouted, reaching out for the light. "You have to finish this." But before I could respond, something or someone loomed in the doorway. A figure stepped out of the darkness, and all the warmth from the light seemed to drain away. My breath hitched as I stumbled back, feeling an unease crawl all over me. That's when I saw it, a tall, shadowy silhouette with an aura of palpable malice. Whoever or whatever was disrupting this moment was intent on preventing Clara's peace. "What the hell is that?" I gasped. "Don't let it take you," the woman shouted, just as the figure lurched toward us, slipping through the doorway like liquid night. It was now or never. I had to choose: fight for Clara or succumb to the darkness. In that terrifying moment, I was jolted back to reality. My heart raced as the dark figure advanced, but the light from the box held its ground like a fortress. "Clara!" I shouted again, desperation pushing out the fear, willing her spirit to come forth and finish what she started. The woman beside me nodded, urging me to stay strong. "Courage!" she cried, her voice cutting through the chaos. "You have to believe in her. Believe in the love she lost." With a shaky breath, I focused on the box and the memories it contained. Somehow, this moment was my chance to bridge the past and present. I looked into the light and saw shapes swirling, reminiscent of letters and echoes, forming an image in the air. Clara's face emerged, clearer than ever, full of emotion, smiling and vibrant, yet tinged with sadness. She needed to be whole. "Clara!" I shouted again, my voice full of determination. "This is your moment. You can be free, don't let whatever that is take it away from you." The shadow stopped, hesitating before the power of Clara's memory. The air crackled as the swirling light pulsed with life, pushing against the dark mist that sought to envelop it. But the looming figure didn't waver. It surged forward, intent on snuffing out any remnants of Clara's hope. "Keep going," the woman urged. "Don't stop." I grabbed the locket, still in my hand, and clutched it tightly, feeling its weight. "I know you loved," I shouted, feeling the intensity of my voice amplify. "I know you want to be remembered. You deserve to be at peace." The light flickered but didn't go out. Clara's image began to grow stronger, visibly fighting against the darkness. The shadow hesitated, almost as if it were beginning to lose its grip. That's when I noticed something strange, a glimmer of light forming at the center of the darkness, an opposing force either seeking to defend or connect with Clara. "Clara!" I cried once more, "let your love guide you." In an instant, the shadows around us froze. I felt Clara's presence surge as she rose above, the love and longing reflected in her spirit. It overwhelmed the shadows, forcing them back as she reached out, defying centuries of sorrow with one act of love. The light brightened, illuminating the room and pushing away the dark figure, which shrieked in disorientation. With a final, deafening roar, the shadows twisted and dissipated into nothingness, leaving only Clara's radiant form shining bright before me. She turned to me, her eyes filled with gratitude and relief. The woman beside me smiled, her aura softening as Clara's essence filled the room. "I will always remember you," I whispered, my heart brimming with emotion. "You are free now, Clara." With one last brilliant flash, Clara's figure shimmered and then dissolved into a sea of light, transforming the atmosphere around us. I felt an immense weight lift, the oppressive air of the house lightening with each breath, but as the warmth of Clara's presence faded, I became painfully aware of the silence that flooded the room. The woman turned toward me, solemn yet content. "You did well," she said. "She is free now, but things are never truly finished." "What do you mean?" I asked, still trying to envelop the enormity of what just happened. "The house holds memories, both good and bad, and they will linger." Her tone shifted slightly. "But now you have a choice. You can keep exploring, or you can move on." I didn't know what that meant, but a familiar unease crept back in. The shadows that once threatened my safety had vanished, yet I couldn't shake the feeling that remnants might linger, unanswered questions floating in the very atmosphere I breathed. I have to think," I murmured. "Yes," she replied, her form shimmering slightly. "And remember, some stories choose their tellers. You're part of this house now, whether you like it or not." As she finished, another flicker of light caught my eye, a brief silhouette in the corner of the room before vanishing into the walls. A shiver skittered down my spine, leaving me feeling both restored and strangely unsettled. The house remained still, and the memories seemed to wrap around me, constantly shifting. Adrenaline started to leave my body, replaced by a profound stillness that was both comforting and disquieting. I walked to the open door, looking back at the living room where shadows still flirted along the edges, ready to ignite my curiosity once more. The sense of mystery remained alive. As I stepped outside, the sun dipped beneath the horizon, casting long shadows across the yard. I hesitated, turning back one last time to glance at the house, knowing with a heavy heart that my journey was far from over. Years later, I still think about that night. I never returned to that house, but I often wonder if the spirits within found their peace or if they still call out for closure. Perhaps some questions remain unanswered, and perhaps some stories in the dark are meant to be left untold. I moved to a different neighborhood, finding solace under a new sky. But sometimes, at dusk, I still hear the faintest whisper of a humming, a reminder that even as I adapted to change, a part of me belonged to the shadows.